What's going on YouTube? So the Tesla Model Y is one of the best-selling vehicles in the world, and it's definitely one of the best-selling EVs. However, there's a lot of new competition that keeps popping up. We're standing next to one of the newest competitors. This is the Xpeng G9 Performance. And we want to know today, is this Tesla's worst nightmare? Well, let's go ahead and find out. Now, before we get started here, I do want to, of course, mention to all of our viewers in the US, that's where most of our viewers are residing, this vehicle is not currently for sale. However, if you are a European viewer or a Chinese viewer and many other markets across the world, you can buy one of these right now. Now, we were invited by DCar Studios to come and check out their collection of imported Chinese vehicles today and give you guys a nice unbiased look at how it stacks up against vehicles such as the Tesla Model Y. Now, with that being said, let's kind of jump in and see what you're going to get with this new model. Now, first of all, a really sleek and elegant design, especially up here in the front. You can see we have a nice sealed off fascia, except for down here on the bottom part. It's got a large light bar that's going to go all the way across the front here. And the lighting is really going to play a large role in the premium features that you get on board. So one thing I want to point out is, of course, you've got animations that are going to go through this light bar as you approach the vehicle. You can actually customize which animations that you want. You have the dynamic turn signal indicator, of course. Now, the actual headlight unit is going to be down here below. Of course, this is a full LED unit for both your low and your high beams. It has a very sophisticated look. And then down below, we even have LiDAR sensors built in. Now, moving on to our wheels, you've got the choice between 19 or 21-inch alloy wheels. As you can see, we've got the multi-spoke 21-inch alloy on this test model. I think these look really nice overall. And then up here, you've got kind of a thin bar here with the Xpeng branding. This actually houses a camera which is facing backwards. You have a camera here, a camera here. There's all types of cameras on this vehicle, that's for sure. In terms of your mirrors, of course, you're going to have those features that you expect, such as blind spot monitoring and power folding.
Now, Drew's been talking about the Tesla Model Y, and the main reason for that is because this lines up very similarly in terms of price as compared to a Model Y, but it's actually quite a bit bigger, 192.3 inches in overall vehicle length, which kind of places it right in between a Tesla Model Y and a Tesla Model X in terms of sizing. Now, as far as the overall design is concerned, we have very sleek door handles, chrome window surrounds. I do also like that we have frameless windows. Drew will talk about that as we get inside, and then we also have roof rails up top. Now, as we head around to the rear design of this Xpeng G9, I have to say this thing looks really fantastic here in person. It has a very classy overall look to it, and I'm a big fan. Now, breaking down some of those design touches. We have a spoiler up top. There is also a wiper integrated underneath. We also have some branding right through here in the center. And then let's take a look at our taillights. As you would expect for a luxury vehicle, we do have full LED taillights. That's going to include your brake light, your turn signal, and your reverse light. As you can see, the turn signal does have the dynamic ability. That's something that you wouldn't find on a Tesla, for instance. And then as we drop down to the lower fascia, this is an electric product. So we do not have any exhaust outlets, but you still can tow up to 3,300 pounds. Now, if you were paying attention, you've seen a lot of cameras, and that's because this thing has a lot of advanced safety technology. That means every single one of your active safety features that you would expect is standard equipment on this G9 model. And depending on what market you are in, you're also going to get some very cool autonomous driving features. In China, it actually is level 4 autonomous driving. But guys, there's also a very luxurious interior that I think might put a Tesla Model Y to shame. But first, if you're new here, we're brothers and we've been reviewing cars since we were 12
and 16. We started young, and since then we've reviewed over 2,000 cars at every price point.
And if you want to know about all the latest and greatest rides, then make sure to subscribe to be a part of our Car Confections family.
Let's learn a lot and have some fun with all the newest cars. All right, now it's time to actually see that interior. We'll take a peek at the key fob. Kind of a unique key fob. It's very thin, Has some badging on the back as well. And then, getting inside the vehicle itself, you can just press this little button here. It's going to pop out the door handle. Just like we find in a lot of brands, sometimes you do get those false entries where it doesn't sense your approach and you will have to go and press the button there to open it up. Nevertheless, let's take a peek inside of this interior. So, yes, like Mason was saying, this is really going to be a very luxurious space, and there's a lot to talk about here. But I want to start off, as always, with the seats, because they themselves really have a lot of luxurious things attached to them. So first of all, typical in EVs, at least the ones sold here in the States, you usually have some type of leatherette seat. This is a genuine Napa leather seat. It's absolutely gorgeous. It has a design that really looks strongly like Mercedes, the way that the stitching details waterfall down through here, and it feels like a Mercedes seat as well. In terms of the adjustments, obviously you have a lot of power adjustments. What's cool about this, though, is the fact that they're heated, they're ventilated, they have massagability, and even on the passenger side, you have a recliner that pops out of the seat for a really cool nap. So a lot of nice features are packed into the seats themselves. Obviously, they have memory as well synced to the key fob. But let's go ahead and hop inside. And I just wanted to show you guys it does have soft close doors if you fail to close them completely. All right, let's look around at the rest of the cabin materials. Obviously, this is our very first time in a vehicle from this brand, so we didn't know what to expect. I have to say, quite impressed. So over here, we've got a lot of the leatherette material going all through the center section as well as along the top. Even the bottom part, way down here, is going to be a padded plastic. That's not typical. You've got real metal speaker grills right through there. Nice leatherette material across the upper part of the dashboard. Stitched material through the center section here. That's going to continue all through here and along the side where our knees would rest against. Overall, everything in here feels really, really solid and well put together. Now, we'll go ahead and fire it up. This obviously doesn't have a traditional push button start. You just kind of put your foot on the brake, and when you go into drive, that will go ahead and boot the vehicle up. All right, let's jump into some individual features of the interior. We'll start with the gauge cluster, of course. We have a 10.25 inch gauge cluster right up in the front there. You can customize certain things with this system. You don't have a head-up display, at least with this model that we are testing out today. Pulling back to the steering wheel, we have a really nice flat bottom steering wheel. This is a 2-spoke design. I like the overall look and feel of it. It's power tilt and telescoping. You adjust that inside of the display itself. Now, one of the interesting things, if you look kind of behind the steering wheel and take a look at the switches there as well as our shifter, you might actually recognize them here in the States as well. That's because this is a old Mercedes shifter, which they used for a while. Then Tesla actually adopted it, and now we have it here. So it's kind of an interesting little tiddly bit with this. And now in terms of the actual backup camera, really nice looking, as you'd expect for something that's got so many cameras on the exterior. Resolution is absolutely fantastic. This does also have auto parking abilities as well. And then let's kind of take a look next at some interior storage stuff. So if I open up our center console, let me get this piece of paper out. You can see that we've got quite a lot of storage. This is a pretty deep console for sure. You've got a nice felt lining in there as well. You might also notice that you got these little canisters. That's because this has a fragrance system. You certainly can't get that on the Tesla Model Y to kind of give you some nice smells inside the interior. And then in terms of some other storage, we have some definitely not American-sized cup holders right here. We have dual wireless phone charging pads, and then we've got a tremendously sized sensor pass-through with a felt lining across the entire bottom of it. And now that kind of takes us up here to our screens. Obviously, a lot of the vehicle's functions are going to be located inside of these displays. So what are these displays? Well, these are about 15 inches each, and there's actually two of them. This is the main infotainment side you're looking at obviously right now. If you pan over here to this side, this is a passenger display. So this is kind of just for mostly entertainment functions. You can do things such as this vehicle was imported from China, like I said, so you can go on basically the Chinese version of YouTube, things like that if you want to entertain the passenger. And it's completely invisible over here from the driver's side. So I do obviously want to make that point as Mason kind of moves the camera over here. You can see that I can't see anything while I am driving. Now, in terms of over here, let's kind of get into some of those functions. So at the bottom, this is where you're going to find your climate controls. You can make those adjustments nice and easily through there. If I click on it, it kind of pops up some additional functions. And then if you want to adjust the vents, you got to hit those little buttons there. And then this does have the vents that you control in the touchscreen. That's not my favorite setup, but of course Tesla does this as well. This is also where you can get into the seat controls and turn on things like the heated and ventilated seats, the heated steering wheel, stuff I was mentioning earlier. This is also where we can switch on that fragrance system. Let's see if we can give that a sample. Oh, it comes with some corresponding music. Interesting. I'll report back on how that smells. Now, in terms of some other things to take a look at, let's talk about the audio system next. This is kind of a cool thing with this because it does have a very high performance audio system. 22 speakers and 2150 watts. So that's definitely a lot of speakers. Two of those tweeters actually pop out of the dashboard, and I did pair my phone to this car, so let's give it a sample. So overall sound quality is pretty good, but I have to say for the number of speakers, it's not absolutely fantastic. It definitely maybe is one of those systems where they've added a lot of speakers to kind of inflate the total number, but it's not blowing me away as much as I thought, considering you have speakers coming from basically everywhere, out of the roof and all over. By the way, this actually adjusts the temperature. I'm just now noticing you can use the steering wheel controls to adjust the temperature up and down. That's kind of a slick idea, and I do like that considering that this is a pretty small little button to push. Now, kind of engaging with the main infotainment system, the graphics on this, absolutely fantastic, really looks super sharp. You have some vehicle functions over here you can kind of engage with. A lot of our other functions are going to be located right there when I press the little car. This is a very fast moving system. You don't really have any lag. It's pretty easy to understand as well. If I press that, that's going to bring us up some more applications. You have a lot of cool functions that you can activate inside of this system. One of the things you might be surprised to know that this supports is wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay abilities. Carrying on from that, we've got an auto dimming mirror. You have a little place for some sunglasses up there. The headliner is not going to be a suede finish, but if you look at the very top, we have a super large fixed glass panoramic roof.
And now let's go ahead and talk about the rear seat area for this Xpeng G9. Now, as far as this is concerned, we don't have official legroom and headroom figures for the U.S. market. Of course, this is not a vehicle that's currently being sold in the U.S. However, I brought my handy-dandy official Car Confections ruler so I can get a very accurate sample. Now, this seat is adjusted to Drew, who is 5'8". I'm 5'9" for reference. And check this out, guys. We are sitting at 10 inches of additional knee room. My feet can also easily slide up underneath of the seat. So overall, it's definitely a lot of space here in this model. I don't know as far as if I was guessing. I would say about 39 to 40 inches of leg room. And the headroom, I'd also expect to be about 38 to 39 inches at least. It's very spacious feeling here in the rear. Now, as far as the seats themselves, they are going to be fixed in this position. However, Over on the door trim, we do have this button, and this button will allow you to power adjust your seats. So as you can see, I'm slowly power reclining back. So that's really nice that it's a power ability. That's certainly something that a Tesla Model Y would not include. And then if we fold down the center armrest, inside of here, we're going to find quite a bit. So if we open this up, we have a nice felt-lined storage area. All of it is very premium feeling. And then if we pop out the end, that's going to give us 2 cup holders. Continuing on with the features, we do have vents here in the center section. We don't have our own climate zone, though, so that's something to keep in mind, or at least adjustment back here. And then down below, we have a USB-C and a USB-A port. Additionally, when it comes to other features, these back seats are going to be heated. They are also claiming that they are massaging, although it is a very limited time frame, so I haven't been able to sample that out, but even the thought of a massaging backseat is quite fancy for this price point. Now, as far as the door trim, of course, we have that frameless window design. It's leatherette really from top to bottom, and we have beautiful metal speaker grills. These things really feel fantastic. Down in the lower section, we have bottle storage with a nice lining inside as well. And now let's talk about the cargo area. Of course, we are going to have a power tailgate. And as far as the rear area is concerned, we're going to have quite a bit of space as well. 23 cubic feet behind the second row of seats. If we fold those seats down, we're going to be sitting at around 55 cubic feet as a maximum. Now, those are pretty good space figures overall. However, if you're curious about, comparing this to gasoline vehicles that are currently for sale in the United States, you can find that at carconfections.com/vehicle rankings. We've looked at a ton of luxury 2-row midsize SUVs, and you can see how each of those are going to compare respectively to this model as well. Now, as far as the features, you will notice that we have a really nice carpeting, and then over on the right side there, you'll find buttons. These buttons are going to allow you to electronically fold the seats. They fold 60-40 split, nice and easy with that one press of a button. And of course, this is a Car Confections review, so I brought my tape measure so we can get overall cargo length, width, and height figures in this Xpeng G9. Now, overall cargo length behind Drew's driving position, 79 inches of length. From behind the second row, 40 inches of length. Overall width opening, 40 inches tall or wide. And then as far as the height, it's going to be about 29 inches tall. If we lift up the cargo floor, there is also quite a bit of underfloor storage, and we're not done yet because there actually is a frunk in this model. So let's see how much space you are going to find. Well, it's not going to be a ton. It's going to be, just probably a couple cubic feet of space. Good enough for things like your overall charge cable. It'd also be good for things like fast food if you didn't want those stinking up the beautiful cabin inside. But I'm sure you guys are very curious as to how this vehicle drives out on the road. So let's go ahead and take it out for a spin. Well, guys, here we are behind the wheel of the Xpeng G9 Performance. This, of course, has quite a lot of performance, so we need to go ahead and dive into that in this test drive. We'll also be discussing quite a few different other things, as you can see on the screen right now. Additionally, we'll get our sound level reading, but first, let's go ahead and start with that hard acceleration.
All right. There's a punch of the accelerator. And as we said, this is the G9 Performance. So, what this is composed of is a dual motor all-wheel drive system with quite a lot of power, 551 horsepower to be exact. And that's good for 0 to 60 in under 4 seconds. We're looking at about 3.8 seconds, which is quite good to say the least for an SUV of this size.
Yeah, it really pushes you back in your seat, and may I add, it just kind of does so in an elegant fashion. Inside of this cabin, it is very luxurious, and even though it is pretty brutally fast if you were to just slam on the gas, it doesn't seem too harsh in its overall acceleration. It's more of just a amount of power for a luxury to me.
Yeah, certainly very nice in terms of that overall acceleration. And the battery pack on this is 98 kilowatt hours. So we have a pretty large size battery pack. We'll get into the specific range numbers in just a second.
Man.
That is seriously fast.
Yeah, that's quick. That is really quick. Now, like Drew said, there is obviously the important aspect of range, so we might as well just go ahead and hit that. Now, of course, these are done on different standards, so, you know, depending on if this car were to come to market here in the U.S., we do expect it would have a lower range than this, but they are claiming 403 miles on a single charge, which would be very, very efficient for this model. Also, it does have really fast charging. It's up to 300 kilowatt speeds, which means you can charge from 10 to 80% in as little as 20 minutes.
Another little ding you just heard was the vehicle actually monitoring the signal, telling me that it had turned green, and to make sure I was paying attention and to go ahead and accelerate off. That's pretty cool. As you can see in the screen, you've got this very advanced display. It's taking in feedback from all those cameras and sensors around the vehicle and giving you this really cool visualization of the roads, the lane markers, and all the vehicles surrounding you.
Yeah, now we're just kind of cruising along on the highway section. I think it's a great time for us to go ahead and start talking about ride quality for this Xpeng G9. Now, as far as this area is concerned, I have to say I'm pretty darn impressed. Now, the suspension actually is very different than something like a Tesla Model Y. You see lots of them driving around here because we actually have a dual chamber air suspension on this model. That's something you cannot get on a Model Y, for instance. And as you could, see demonstrated there as we went over the railroad tracks, I think this has really, really good ride quality overall. It does a good job of kind of isolating out those big bumps that you'll see in the road. That's not to say it's quite as good as some of the other air suspension setups that I've been in. Depends on what you might be cross-shopping this with, but for instance, a BMW X5, a Mercedes GLE, those types of vehicles would have a little bit better ride quality overall with their air suspension setups, but I'm very happy with what they've done here, especially at this price point. I think it's a very good ride.
And you can actually go in and change the settings in here. So you got this big page where you can customize, of course, your drive modes, things that you expect, region, power steering, response. Here's our heights for the suspension, and then we also have suspension stiffness. So we were in the standard.
Yeah, let's go ahead and
we can try out the comfort and see if that makes much of a difference, and then maybe later we can try the sport. But yeah, I like that you have all this customizability as well. Like I tend to prefer steering to be a little heavier, so we can try out the sport steering as well. Yeah, I think that did make a little bit of a difference. Again, does it isolate everything out? No, but is it pretty good, especially for the size category and price point? Yes, absolutely. Now, once we kind of clear out here, we can talk a little bit about some performance as well as hopefully get a clear spot for our sound level reading. Now, speaking a little bit about performance, we don't have any real curvy roads or anything, but you can tell in terms of the balance, this is going to be a lot more luxury focused than, say, a Tesla Model Y performance. So even though this is the performance model, it is going to be, like I said, a little bit more luxury-minded. The suspension is not as stiff, so it is going to be more comfortable. But at the same time, if you're going to really hustle this, which you might want to given how fast it is to 60, then that's where you're going to notice that this dynamically is not going to be able to keep up with something like that. You're going to have more body roll, a little bit less feel and accuracy in terms of the steering.
And that today is going to be our airball, is the fact that you don't quite have that dual character of some of the other gasoline options you might look at, like a BMW X5 that can be sporty and super comfortable. And also, it's not going to have quite the performance of the Model Y. Now, on the slam dunk side of things, I have to say this cabin is extremely well executed. We review cars for a living, and I've been in a lot of luxury vehicles, and this thing really is put together super nicely. There is a lot of nice materials used throughout, and even the details like these speaker grills are really fantastically done. All right, and let's go ahead and get our sound level reading going 55 miles per hour, which is around 80 kilometers per hour. And before we started slowing down here, 50.9 decibels is what we are looking at as our sound level reading. That is incredibly good, although I do want to point out that we are here in California, so we are not in our home state of Kentucky, and we are on a pretty freshly paved road. However, to be getting anywhere near that, low 50 decibel range, I think that's pretty impressive. That means that there is a lot of sound insulation in this cabin. Now let's go ahead and talk about pricing for this Xpeng model. Now, as far as the pricing on this, we are looking at around a $51,000 price point, which is very similar to that of something like a Tesla Model Y Performance. So overall, it's a very good deal, I think, especially for what you're getting here with this model. Now, if you're looking to buy any new vehicle, we would encourage you to go to carconfections.com/newcarquotes. The reason you do that is because we have a tool on our website that will connect you with local car dealers in your area to get you the best price. It's also going to give you access to invoice pricing information, which is a great tool for dealership negotiation. If you'd like to take advantage of that, a link is provided in our video description, and we also have a pinned comment at the top of this video. And guys, that's going to wrap up our in-depth review of this new Xpeng G9. If you enjoyed watching this video or found it helpful in your purchasing decisions, we'd really appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button down below. By subscribing, you're going to be a part of our Car Confections family. We have a lot of fun on this channel, and we promise you won't want to miss out. If you found this video interesting, we'd also appreciate you subscribing down below. And if you're already part of our family, thank you so much for your continued support. We'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.